In Fallout 4, have you ever wanted to be that guy who stuffed a pipe bomb in someone's mailbox? Well, you can, but this time, you're doing it in their pockets. This is called reverse pickpocketing, where you pickpocket someone, but instead of taking something, you give them a nice surprise, which is usually a grenade. Well, in this video, we find out, can I beat Fallout 4 only using reverse pickpocketing? Once again, I start off in the bathroom, making my character the most devious looking man you could ever see. A man that looks like his name would be Rapscallion, and he would just go around pickpocketing little children. And I think I did a great job. Just look at that sharp chin. Mwah. I first went to my wife's room and looked for her jewels so I could hide them. And then my plans were cut short by this door-to-door salesman. But I knew he was just trying to scam me, but I know how to scam a scammer. So I signed his form anyway, in hopes I could scam him later down the line. Despite my tomfoolery, it was now time for my perks. For my perks, I put 1 into strength because a sleek and nimble arm doesn't need the power if you could just pickpocket it. Put 4 into perception for the pickpocketing skill, 5 into endurance because I need to be able to move a lot, charisma because I'm a con man, 1 intelligence because who needs it, 7 into agility for the sneak ability, and 5 into luck for idiot savant. I then named myself Sticky Grips, because what's a better way to describe a character who always wants to put their grips onto something sticky? I could see into Sean's eyes, foreseeing a future of massive destruction, and there it was. Once I had run to reach the platform, a giant nuke. Sean was right, and now it was time to loot. And I got frozen, and my wife was shot, but that meant more loot for me. So I moved on through the vault, surviving past hordes upon hordes of rad roaches that I locked behind doors in ultimate precision, and even more doors. I waited out the timer for my caution and then left the vault for Sanctuary. And with that, I can describe my entire build for this run. So for my perks, I mainly focused on Sneak, Pickpocketing, and Demolition Expert. These 3 perks made it super easy to be able to go around and sneak up and kill enemies with just a single grenade. And I think that's really all I needed. Of course, I upgraded some other things, but if you want to do this yourself, that's what you gotta pick. I quickly leveled up by placing down a bunch of posts and then leveling up my character in pickpocketing twice and sneak twice. Once I felt pretty satisfied with what I had, I made my way down to Concord, but first I stopped at Dogme, trying to put this tire on his head, and then let Preston Garvey shoot down the raiders so I could take their Molotov cocktails. I then robbed Trashcan Carla and decided it was a perfect time to test out my skills with reverse pickpocketing, and it went exactly the way I wanted it to. I placed it into her back pocket and watched her get lit ablaze in perfect fire. Now I can start my run. So I moved on to this diner where everybody was trying to kill this Vault 81 resident, and I needed to go there. So it was a great thing that I got reminded of it. I went back to the Museum of Freedom only to find out my biggest problem. It was very hard to pickpocket someone if they were in combat or if you were still getting found. And even if you were hidden, it doesn't matter. You still cannot pickpocket someone if they're fighting. So I ended up just leaving, going down to Diamond City so I can at least get the checkpoint and the teleportation to it. I didn't stay for long as much as I wanted to steal. I went down to Vault 81 to go find a weapon that will help me a lot throughout this playthrough. But I forgot there's a requirement. I need to get 3 fusion cores or a very high charisma, and I decided just to get the fusion cores. I actually watched Henry Cook blast Paul away, and then I decided to help him. But that was all a ruse. I went behind him while he wasn't looking and put a grenade behind his back, and he went to the moon. Then I went back and stole all of his stuff by killing these guys with a grenade. It failed a few times, but I eventually got it. I had convinced Trish just to run away and then stole all of the chems for myself. And then I started selling and started buying more and more items until finally I had 3 fusion core and a lot more mines. I talked to the overseer before going onto a tour with this little boy who looked very snatchable. And then this little girl said that her cat went missing. And I did a decent thing for once and went looking for it. I found the cat and then went back only to find out the little boy was diseased. And Bobby DeLuca opened this door, dodged bullets, and even mole rats with lots of diseases and AIDS. And it was very scary, but enough drugs took me out to get past all of the rest of them. And then finally, I made it to this robot who gave me a cure for the boy. And as a reward for my hardships, I got the short syringer rifle, combined with the pack syringes will be very helpful throughout the playthrough. In order to create pack syringes, I need Coca-Cola, so I went to Diamond City and stole as much as I can by hiding in this corner, and then I went back to Red Rocket. And Red Rocket has an already placed down chemistry station that I could use, so I used just that. And when I looked down to find it, I need Mutfruit. So I went to a farm, found some Mutfruit, placed it down, and then finally started building myself my pack syringes. And if you don't know, pack syringes put targets into a non-violent stage for 30 seconds, where you can put your sticky grenades or any fire bombs into their back pocket. And to test it out, I went back to the Museum of Freedom, shot this raider, and then put a Molotov cocktail in his back pocket. And there you go. It worked. That means we can actually make progress on this run. And like normally, I had to go down to the subway station to go save Nick Valentine from his captors. And one thing that made this super special is that he's got little fingers that can sneak into little things and little cracks and unlock doors, just like me. The biggest problem is that there was too many enemies just to all pickpocket and shoot pack syringes at, because that's super expensive. So after a few deaths, I ran past them all, making it into the vault, and then I slipped by, almost unfazed, unharmed, unseen by most of these enemies. But once I was cornered, they forced my hand. I shot a triggerman with a pack syringe and then put a mine in his back pocket, killing both of the enemies that were chasing me. And as I was trying to sneak past Dino, he caught me. So I shot him with a pack syringe and then placed a fragmentation mine right in his back pocket and wished that he would explode, but he ended up just dying sadly. I rescued Nick Valentine and let him deal with most of the triggermen throughout the rest of the vault, because I couldn't waste any of my pack syringes because I was already low. But once I got to Skinny Malone, all I had to do was walk up to him and put up a fragmentation mine right in his back pocket. And when he did that, he exploded most of his forces. But Darla lived, so I just gave her a pack syringe and put a grenade in her back pocket too. And then finally, it was over. After that was all done, I had to get more pack syringes, but I was out of Mutfruit, so I was forced to go look for some in some nearby settlements. But I tried to sneak, but then a bunch of homeless people caught me and started asking for my money. I eventually made it to the gardens though, and stole as much as I could. But then I was jumped by rad scorpions. It was terrible. I was utterly scared for my life. After that near miss of death, I made my way into the house, stole Mutfruit, went to Grey Garden and stole their Mutfruit, and then I went all the way back to Sanctuary and made more pack syringes. I talked to this detective and he interrogated me before I made my way back to the mayor's office to go steal the keys while he was looking. I'm the greatest thief of all time. I then went back to Nick Valentine and we went into Kellogg's house, and then I stole everything out of his storage closet because finders keepers, losers weepers. I gave Dogmeat a scratch before heading out to Fort Hagen, but I stopped to watch this absolute movie scene with this Deathclaw and this super mutant encampment. It was crazy. I made my way to Fort Hagen without Dogmeat. I attempted stealth, hiding behind the synths, but they caught me every single time, so I ended up just running straight into the elevator. It was all downhill from there because it was almost impossible to sneak past them, so I just took a whole bunch of drugs and tried jumping past them whenever they blocked hallways. I tried to hide in the bathroom too, but they'll find me every single time, hitting me through doors, smacking my limbs and cracking my bones. It was terrible. Absolutely despicable. I made my way straight to Kellogg, avoiding all the other synths, and then finally I made it to him. And me with my 1 intelligence thought I was being smart. I put a fragmentation mine right on the other side of the synth, and it only tickled him. He was not dead, and everybody else started killing me. Turns out you can't pack syringe synths. Who would have known? After a few more failed attempts, I decided just to go straight to the Starlight Diner so I can pick up a bottle cap mine that was just calling my name. I needed to get it. And once I had grabbed it, I went back to Kellogg, put the same mine on the same synth, and he was still only a little bit tickled. But I found that you can push synths closer to Kellogg, and then I did a quick switcheroo and put that mine inside of him. And then boom, Kellogg was finally dead. But there was a problem. It said kill Kellogg now, but he wasn't dead. So I had to restart, do it one more time, but this time I had to finish his dialogue. And finally, he was finally dead. I attempted to leave, but Fort Hagen had different plans. I got stuck in a 10-minute long elevator loading screen. It was terrible. Despite the long wait, I made my way to Good Neighbor and then ran into Finn. And Finn had to go out with a bang, and I did that. He survived the first one, but then the second one did it all for him. I watched Dr. Amari put her fingers inside of Nick Valentine's brain, but that meant I had to go to the Glowing Sea, and I did just that, but I needed a hazmat suit, so I bought one from Becky Fallon, and then started to make my journey onto the glowing sea. And it was terrible. First, it was a rabid Razdag with rabies, getting attacked by people with rabies, and then I got attacked by the Brotherhood of Steel, out of all people, for no reason. I don't know what that was about, but they still attacked me. So I tried to run, and I tried to hide, but I couldn't get away. And then even when they stopped following me, a Alpha Deathclaw started chasing me, so I had to take more drugs, and then I made it to the settlement, and I blew up the leader, and then I made my way finally into the cave, and then I talked to Virgil, which calmed everything down. Kind of made me angry. So I tried to take some payment from him, which was some meat, but he caught me, so I couldn't take it. But now it was time to go kill the Courser. So I made my way to Green Tech Genetics before making my way inside. And with precision like a surgeon, I snuck through all the enemies, leaving all the mines on the floor untouched and untriggered. And finally, it was time to sneak up on the Courser. But of course, he knew exactly where I was. But he turned around as a rookie mistake, and I put the mine on him. And there it was. I killed the Courser, and then I got the Courser chip. I killed the hostages too, so there was no witnesses. Now it was time to go to the railroad, and I thought it would be very hard because you can't pickpocket ghouls, but they're extremely stupid, and they can't really tell if you're near them. So I ended up just putting in the code, hiding from this one feral roamer who kept roaming. And while Tinker Tom was decoding the problem, I stole their Nuka-Cola as a payment. And then finally, he got the code decoded. I went back to Virgil and then told him about my plans, and then he made me schematics. My biggest problem is that I had to pick a side, so I took a souvenir cup as a trophy and then made my way back to the Museum of Freedom. I did a really good, well-placed pack syringe and put a fragmentation mine on the back of this raider, and he died in one quick successive movement with all his friends. I talked to Preston and his gang only to find out I need to kill the Deathclaw, but the biggest problem with the Deathclaw is that it cannot be pickpocketed, so Preston Garvey and the raiders have to deal with him. And that was a problem, because he kept getting close to me, and the raiders kept dying, and then Preston fell off the roof, and then the Brotherhood of Steel, out of all people, show up and kill the Deathclaw. What is going on? I don't even know. And as a thank you and goodbye, I stole their fusion cores right out of their power armor, and then went on with my day to talk to Preston Garvey. Now it was time to finish settlement missions for Preston, and this got a little hectic at some points, but otherwise it was super easy. Usually I had to run in somewhere and kill one guy, which was super easy when all I had to do was run in, shoot him with a pack syringe, and then pickpocket a mine onto his body. And that usually did it right there and then, and it was nice. Until you got to the point where you had to go into super mutants and kill every single last one of them. This was on my nerves, but eventually, after a few sneaking, I got all of them dead, and that one was by far one of the hardest. And as a reward for my hard work, I stole a Fat Man and a Mini Nuke from Good Neighbor, and also some Nuka-Colas. I then went to Diamond City and stole even more Nuka-Colas. Now it was time to take back the castle. And then it got increasingly difficult because you cannot pickpocket a Mirelurk. And when the only thing you had to rely on was the Minutemen, they didn't know how to shoot. And then the Mirelurk Queen came out, and everything got 10 times worse. Until I saw hope. It was the Brotherhood of Steel, once again. I led the Mirelurk Queen over, and they absolutely destroyed her. I built the radio tower, and then I made my way to do more settlement missions. And then I went back to Diamond City to stop by for the visit to the doctor. And then I found out you didn't have to do Vault 81. The syringer is sold by the doctor. No one told me this. Why? Despite my anger, a settlement mission finished on its own as the game's way of saying sorry. Now Ronnie Shaw was at the castle, and I had to do her quest to get the artillery. But there was a problem with Ronnie Shaw being the only way to get the enemy killed. I found out that you can place a mine on an NPC or a companion that is just getting up from their down position, which made it increasingly more easy to kill Sarge. This took an exceedingly long time because either Sarge was not close enough or I had to wait for Ronnie Shaw to actually stand up before I could actually place down the mine. But eventually, I did kill Sarge, and then I got access to the castle's artillery, and then I watched it because it's always something fun to look at. After this was all done, I started building the Institute teleporter, and then once I was ready, I used it. I went to the terminal inside of the Institute and activated the network scanner. All of the Institute scientists, oblivious to what was going down their elevator because I'm so sneaky, and I'm gonna steal all of their souls. And then before me laid the child that I wanted to take. He looked very takeable, but he was locked behind some glass. And then this man walked in the room. And my first instinct was to put a grenade on his back, but I couldn't do that. It wouldn't let me. So I went to this random lady and did it to her instead. But because of that, everybody seemed to hate me. So I tried to leave very fast. And with a few drugs, I made it out, without even a scratch. But of course, Preston Garvey did not care at all. All he wanted me to do was save more settlements. So I had to do exactly that. One thing to note, you cannot pack syringe a person in power armor. So the best thing to do is pickpocket their fusion core out, wait till they get out, and then drop a bomb in their inventory when they're naked. And of course, while doing these missions, I was still stealing a whole bunch of Nuka-Cola. But there was one mission in particular. This stupid super mutant mission where it was a maze of just suiciders. It was terrible. I ended up just quitting and doing another thing for Grey Garden, which then I finished it. All I had to do left was defend the castle from Institute invaders. One thing that sucked in particular about this mission was the fact that I can't really help with anything unless I run out there with my bare bones, butt naked, only with a mine, going up to my NPCs and putting mines in their pockets. That's the only way I could help. But there's a flaw to that, where most of the enemies will not even be near enough to actually get affected. The only thing that it will cause is my teammates getting angry at me. So I ended up just staying back, hiding in a room, and letting them hash it out, which took me an hour. And I'm not even stressing that enough. It was a long time. And then finally, the Institute coursers decided to retreat. Hooray! But of course, like in any Fallout game, you have to finish the fight. So now, me and Preston are making our way there. But luckily, for some reason, I still have the Institute fast travel. So I went there. Almost died, but luckily, my drugs saved me once again. I went up the elevator and then called in my reinforcements so we can make our way back down to the floor I was just on. But in all honesty, the only things that I could kill were the Institute scientists, which is pretty sad. But Preston and his gang, even though they died almost every single time, they finally put down the rest of the Institute synths. And then we made it out to the lobby, which was even worse. It was terrible. But luckily, with enough time, great things can happen with Preston. He finally made his way all the way down to the final synth Strider and put it down. And now it was up to me and this man again, which I could not kill. I just ended up teabagging him and moving on to the terminal, releasing the lockdown and running straight for the reactor because I cannot damage anything else. Lucky, despite all of the heavy reinforcements, nothing was strong enough to stop me. I went by, placing down the fusion pulse charge and then being immediately teleported out. And there he was, the kid. And I took the kid immediately, without second choice. But now it is time to wrap things up, because I had just beaten the game only using reverse pickpocketing as my way of combat. And then once with the hit of the button, the flash of light, it was done. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it too. If you guys want to see more, like the video and subscribe. Anyways, hope you guys have a great one. Peace. Also, make sure you join my Discord in the description. Thank you.